Hey guys, so if you're watching this video, it's to study for your Unit 1B Linear Functions test. I'm Miss Poole. If you haven't watched these videos before, I'm just making these to walk you guys through how to work each problem so that when you get home, if you get stuck or can't remember, you can pull this video up and it'll really help you study and be prepared for your test. So for the first section, this first video is going to be on the graphing side, so this whole front side. We're going to talk about how we would graph these linear equations, but we're also going to look at what they're asking us to find. So for number one, they're asking us for the x-intercept and the y-intercept, and they want us to graph it using those two things. So for part A, we're going to look at finding the x-intercept from this equation and finding the y-intercept. If it's an x-intercept, you guys should have learned that the y value will equal 0 at this point because it should be somewhere on this blue axis, right? What I'm highlighting with my finger in blue. So if y is 0 and I put 0 in right here for the y, that's going to make 6 times 0, which is just 0. And if I do 3x minus 0, I'm just going to get 3x. So what I've taught my kids to do is make this whole thing a 0. So we're going to be left with 3x equals 12. And if you guys divide by that 3 to get x by itself, 12 divided by 3 is going to give me 4. And the y value should be 0 because it's an x-intercept. So I'm going to go plot that x-intercept at 4, 0. So I'm going to go right, 1, 2, 3, 4, up or down 0. And it is sitting on that x-axis. So now for the y-intercept, you should have learned if it's a y-intercept that the x will be 0. It's always the opposite letter, the opposite variable is going to be 0. So if I go put 0 in for this x, 3 times 0 just makes 0. 0 minus anything, I'm just going to be left with the minus 6y, right? So I'm going to make this x term a 0. And then if you look at the pink, I'm just left with negative 6y equals 12. We got to get y by itself, so I'm going to divide by negative 6, divide by negative 6. And 12 divided by negative 6 is going to give me negative 2. But remember, the negative 2 is the y. So the x is 0, and the y is negative 2. So 0, negative 2 means I go left or right, none, down 2. And there's my y-intercept. So once you have your x-intercept and your y-intercept, your Math 1 teacher probably told you, should have told you, shoulda, coulda, woulda, that you can connect these 2 points with a straight line, and that is the graph for your line. Okay? So I'm going to do the same thing for the next two. Part B is going to get really tricky just because we're going to end up with a decimal. That's totally okay. Just remember on your test, do you really think we would give you one to graph with a decimal? Probably not. So let's not freak out about that one. I will do it rather quickly though, because I know some of you are struggling when you get a decimal. So if it's an x-intercept, remember the y should be 0. So I made my y 0. So this is going to be 4x equals 8. Divide by 4, divide by 4. 8 divided by 4 is going to give me 2 for my x. And remember your y is 0. So my x-intercept is 2, 0. Now for my y-intercept, I'm going to go put 0 in for x. So this is going to give me 3y equals 8. If I divide by 3, can we do 8 divided by 3? No, but on your test you're going to have a calculator. So if I type in 8 divided by 3, I get about 2.7, right? So this is going to be 0, because remember it's a y-intercept, the x is 0, 2.7. So I'm going to go left or right, none, and then I'm going to go up 2.7. So 2.7 is over 2, but it's closer to 3. So maybe like right here. I shouldn't say maybe. Put it right there. Greater than 2, but a little bit under 3. And then once you have your x and y intercept, you can connect your 2 points to make your line. All right, let's look at C. So last year on this test, It's not the same test, so don't be texting your buddy asking them what was up there. Okay, we remake it every year. But last year on this test, a lot of kids missed ones like this. So we need to talk about what this means. If we're saying y equals -2, do you see any x's? No. So if there's no x's, we don't have a rise over run, rise over run, rise over run. This is what makes our lines diagonal, right? Well, we don't have a rise over run. We literally just have y and a number. So you need to go to the y-axis and find -2. That's what you do first. So I'm going to find the y-axis and find -2. And then if you had Miss Poole, or probably Miss Kane, I think Miss Kane shows it this way too. How many legs does a y have? Just one. So if a y tries to hop across South Central High School on one leg, y'all know these children are ratchet, what's going to happen to him in that hallway? He's probably going to trip on somebody and fall because you know they can't walk. So if the y falls, this is going to be a flat line through -2. Okay? So I want you guys to look at this green line because we're not going to find our intercepts first. It's easier to graph the y equals a number or x equals a number ones first. So once I graphed this, is there a y-intercept? So let me grab a highlighter. Does this touch the y-axis? Yes. At what point? 0, -2. All right. Now we need to look at, and I'm looking for a highlighter, if this graph, this green line, touches the x-axis. So does that green line touch my yellow? Or excuse me, my orange. Being colorblind is hard. Does that green line touch my orange? No. So does this have an x-intercept? No. So this would just be none. All right, so if you're watching this video, I'm giving you a tip for tomorrow. Remember, for the y equals a number, it's missing an x. It's not going to have a rise over run and be diagonal. It's either going to stand tall or fall flat. So figure out how many legs it has and graph it first, then answer these questions. It's a lot easier, okay? All right, so let's look at D. Keep in mind, we just did one like this. For D, I have x equals 5. Is there an x and a y? No. So it doesn't have a rise over a run. It's not going to be diagonal. It's either going to stand tall, be vertical, or lay flat, fall down, horizontal. Okay? So if x equals 5, I'm going to go to 5 on the x-axis and put a point. Positive 5 would be right there. Okay? Now, if you had me or Miss Kane, and Miss Allred probably does it too, maybe Miss Harris, I don't know what these beautiful people be doing. How many legs does an X have? 2. So if he's walking around the South Central hallway, he will be able to get from class to class, hopefully without falling, right? So if you have 2 legs, you're going to stand tall. Okay? So this is what my line should look like. Now, this line is a vertical standing tall line. So, y-intercept. We want to see if this purple line touches the y-axis. Remember, the y-axis is vertical. So, does this purple line touch my y-axis? No. So, there is no y-intercept. Now, a lot of teachers haven't really talked about this a whole lot in high school because you learned it in middle school. But when that line stands straight up, it grows really, really, really quickly. It goes straight up, right? Those of you that learned slope dude, this is where he fell off the cliff, okay? If a line is standing straight up vertically and it goes on forever, we can't figure out how much it rises because it goes on forever, right? We also know that it runs 0. So let's talk about this. If I do y divided by x, we don't know how much it rises, so that's a question mark. But we do know it goes left or right, none, right? Because it's just straight up and down. Can you divide by 0 in math? No, this is what we call undefined. So your slope for D is undefined. Now notice how this one asks for the slope instead of the